Element is a minimal real-time strategy game. In fact, developers Flightless describe this as a real-time strategy game for people that do not have time to play real-time strategy games. So has it found its perfect home on the portable Switch, or does it find itself outflanked by better options? Let's find out. Hello everyone, my name is Glenn, welcome to Switchup, and thank you to the developers for today's review copy. The premise of Element uses the classic tale of the Earth, or in this case the solar system, having exhausted all of its resources, necessitating the need to leave in search of new planets and new resources. The game proclaims that the future lies beyond, so off we go to a neighbouring solar system. What this translates to in terms of the game is visiting each of the planets in order to mine them of their valuable resources. Things are never as simple as they seem though, and it appears that we are not the only ones looking to mine these planets. An enemy faction wants the resources too, and this is where the real-time strategy comes in. The aim of each level is to mine more of the resources than the enemy and then destroy their base. To do this, you lay resource units to build energy. This energy can then be used to build units for attacking and defending against the enemy, whilst also attempting to take the planet's mines. So far, standard RTS stuff. The game is designed though to make this a much more basic experience. With regards to both attacking and defending, you do not have a wealth of different inventory units to pick from, and you cannot pour resources into researching and upgrading your starter units. You have 3 types of units, air, land and water, and you choose which of these 3 you want to build by clicking to build the unit either on the land for earth units, in the sky for air units, and in the water for water units, funnily enough. There are no drop down menus to navigate or anything like that. You can choose whether you want to deploy a level 1, 2 or 3 unit, with each number increasing in competence but naturally costing you more energy. To add a further layer of strategy though, there is a rock paper scissors mechanic to the units whereby earth-based units beat water-based units, water-based units beat air-based units, and air-based units beat earth-based units. This means that you need to find a balance between the 3 to stop yourself from being overpowered and give yourself a good chance of claiming victory. You can also send drones out which serve a couple of purposes. Firstly, they will repair your buildings should you come under enemy fire, provided they are not intercepted and destroyed on the way to their destination, and secondly, they will pick up any supplies that are found by your resource scout units. Finally, you have missiles that you can send out and fire at any enemy targets, and again, they come in 3 levels. You can only build on a certain percentage of the planet, so it is important that you find the balance between building defensive and attacking units. However, even if you reach this percentage, you can still use drones and missiles as much as you want, provided you have the adequate energy, so you can never truly dig yourself into a hole that you cannot get out of, even if you do make a strategic error. You must also ensure that you have more resources than the enemy before destroying their base, otherwise you will fail the mission automatically. I found this out the hard way. This is especially annoying because in some of the harder levels, the enemy could already be in control of a few mines at the start of the map, meaning not only are you well and truly behind, but you cannot strike fast and catch them off guard, as this will mean you fail the mission. This led to me just randomly putting resource towers down everywhere I could, just so that my energy built up quicker, and then aggressively taking a few mines before using all of my resources to destroy the enemy base. No change of tactics from mission to mission. It felt like this was the only way to win, and unfortunately that removed all strategic thinking. Another grievance is that there is not a quick way to return to your base. I had instances of warnings flashing up that my base was under attack, and because the map is spherical as opposed to a top-down map, I couldn't find my base no matter how much I kept spinning the planet around. The fact that the buildings all look very similar does not help in this regard either. A return to base command would have been very useful. Element does not shy away from admitting that it's an RTS light, if you will, but streamlining the number of units, menus and statistics doesn't mean that the strategy needs to be watered down too. The game almost backs you into a corner by stacking the odds so far against you in later levels that only one strategy seems to work, rather than presenting you with different types of problems to overcome from planet to planet. For this reason, gameplay receives 14 out of 20. Graphics in Element are certainly interesting. A 3D polygon-based style is used to represent the planet, with a simple colour palette being used for each level. The user interface is clean and simple to understand, which gives the game a good overall presentation. In terms of buildings and vehicles, however, things become a little too simple. Most of the buildings look the same, with colour used to differentiate between your resources and those of the enemy. But whereas the minimalistic style complements the planets well, they do not do any of the other elements any real favours. Graphics receive 14 out of 20. The music starts well enough in Element and looks all set to make a good impression when a theme that wouldn't have sounded out of place in 2001: A Space Odyssey starts to play over the title screen. Unfortunately, after this, there is very little music in the game at all, and instead the game opts for sound effects of the intergalactic war that is taking place, with some voice sampling thrown in for good measure, warning you of incoming threats.
Warning. Mine destroyed.
The sound effects are appropriate enough, but the lack of music is certainly felt in terms of the atmosphere. Audio receives 10 out of 20. In terms of the controls, Element does a good job of keeping everything you need easy to find and to use. The left stick moves your cursor, allowing you to pinpoint where you would like to place a resource, and the right stick rotates the planet and allows you to zoom in and out of the game map. You use the D-pad to navigate the menus and the A button to confirm your choice. A real-time strategy game with a spherical map played on a portable system could have been a recipe for disaster controls-wise, but aside from maybe a way to set the camera back to default and possibly an option to move to specific buildings instantly as mentioned during the gameplay section, the controls handle as well as can be expected. Controls receive 17 out of 20. Element costs £10.99 or $11.99, and it has a fair amount of levels included for this price. It could have done with perhaps having a separate scenario mode or something like this, just to give you some reason to return to the game after you've completed the campaign mode. Having said that, you are graded after completing a level in terms of how many of the available mines you controlled and how much of that planet's element you extracted. This gives you some incentive to go back and beat your score each time. The game starts to ramp up in difficulty about halfway through as well, so how long it will take you to complete will very much depend on your skill level. Value scores 14 out of 20. To conclude, it's an interesting concept to play an RTS on spherical maps, and the game does a good job of streamlining the RTS experience, removing a lot of what might intimidate newcomers to the genre. The biggest problem, at least in my experience with the game, was that I used the same strategy on practically every level. Not just because I could, but because I felt I had to in order to make any sort of progress. This diluted the S part of the RTS experience, which is a real shame. The real-time strategy genre is very low on numbers on the Switch, and veteran fans might not find that this game scratches the itch quite well enough. However, there is still fun to be had here, despite a few flaws, and Element receives a Switchup score of 69%. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please leave a like if you did like what you've just heard, and if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to Switchup for all things Switch all the time, and as always, happy gaming.